Hello everyone, welcome back. We've got a brand new story to share with you, so let's begin. Brianna and I had been together for about a year and a half when everything fell apart over a laptop. That probably sounds ridiculous, ending a relationship over a piece of technology, but it was never really about the laptop. It was about what the laptop revealed. I'm a corporate consultant based in North Carolina. The job allows me a fair amount of flexibility, which is great since I am not always at the office. It's a good setup that requires reliable technology, which is why I have multiple devices. A desktop at the office, my main laptop at home, and an older backup laptop that I kept for travel or overflow work. Brianna and I met through a mutual friend. She worked in retail management, though she often talked about wanting to transition into something else. She was funny, easy to talk to, and we clicked pretty quickly. Within a few months, we were seeing each other regularly. Within 6 months, we were exclusive and talking about a future together. Things weren't perfect between us, but I thought they were manageable. We had normal relationship stuff, occasional disagreements about time management, different social needs, minor incompatibilities that didn't seem like deal breakers. Nothing that made me question whether we were right for each other. We didn't live together. She had her own apartment across town, and I had mine. We'd spend most weekends together and occasional weeknights. I'd thought about suggesting we move in together eventually, but we hadn't gotten there yet. I trusted her. Maybe more than I should have, looking back. I'm generally someone who gives people the benefit of the doubt, who assumes good intentions until proven otherwise. That served me well professionally, but maybe not as well personally. About 2 months before everything imploded, Brianna mentioned that she wanted to learn some new skills. She thought about working for herself, so learning something that would get her out of retail and into a career with more growth potential was her plan. She said she'd been looking at online courses, but her laptop was too old and slow to handle the software she needed to practice with. She asked if she could borrow one of mine temporarily, just until she could afford to upgrade her own. I hesitated. My older laptop, the first-generation Apple M1 MacBook Pro that was about 5 years old but still perfectly functional, was still synced to my work files. It had access to my cloud storage, contained some client credentials, and had various documents I'd worked on over the years. Nothing top secret, but sensitive enough that I wouldn't want it floating around. But Brianna seemed genuine about wanting to learn these skills. She talked about specific courses she was looking at, showed me the software she wanted to try. It felt petty to refuse just because I was worried about work files that I could easily secure. So I said yes. I handed over the laptop, showed her how to log in, and reminded her to be careful with it. She promised she would, thanked me, and took it home to her apartment. I didn't think much about it after that. Assumed she was using it at her place in the evenings, working through tutorials, building her skills. She'd occasionally mention things she'd learned, which seemed to confirm she was actually using it for what she said. A week went by without issue. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, while I was working from home, I hit a problem. I was preparing a presentation for a client meeting the next day and realized I needed a specific file, notes from an earlier consultation that contained details I couldn't remember precisely. The problem was that the file was saved on the old laptop. I'd been meaning to back everything up to the cloud, but hadn't gotten around to it yet. My own procrastination was coming back to bite me. It was around 2 in the afternoon. I picked up my phone and texted Brianna, "Hey, can you drop the laptop by tonight? Need a quick file from it." Simple request. I figured she'd see the message within an hour or so. Respond that she'd bring it by after work. Maybe we'd grab dinner together while she was here. Easy. Hours passed. 3 o'clock. 4 o'clock. 5 o'clock. No response. I started feeling slightly concerned, but told myself she was probably just busy at work. Retail managers don't always have their phones accessible during shifts. Finally, around 6:30, my phone buzzed with her reply. I picked it up and read the message. "Don't freak out, I lost your laptop. My ex borrowed it for a project, and now he can't find it." I sat there staring at the screen, reading the words over and over, trying to make sense of them. Lost. My ex? Borrowed? Can't find it? Each piece of that sentence was its own separate shock. First, she lost it. A laptop that didn't belong to her, that she'd borrowed for a specific purpose, that contained my work files. Second, her ex. She'd given my laptop to her ex-boyfriend. Someone I'd never met. Someone she'd barely mentioned, except in passing, when talking about past relationships. Third, borrowed. He'd borrowed my laptop from her. For what? Why would he need it? Why would she give it to him? Fourth, can't find it. So not only had she given my laptop to her ex, but now he'd lost it entirely. I sat on my couch processing this information. Why was she still in contact with her ex? She'd never mentioned staying in touch with him. I'd assumed that the relationship was completely over, done, in the past, where exes belong. Why would she give my laptop to anyone without asking me first, let alone to an ex-boyfriend? What project could he possibly need it for that would justify borrowing someone else's equipment? And how do you just lose a laptop? Despite the anger and confusion building inside me, I forced myself to stay calm. Getting emotional wouldn't help anything. I needed to think strategically. I typed out a response. No problem. I'll handle it. Giving nothing away about what I was actually thinking. Within 30 seconds, my phone rang. Brianna. I answered. Her voice came through immediately, nervous and talking fast. She explained that her ex had called her out of nowhere a few days ago. His laptop had broken down right in the middle of an important project. He was desperate, didn't have money for repairs or a new one, and she remembered she had access to a laptop he could borrow for just a couple of days. She thought it would be fine. It was just sitting at her apartment anyway. I had other computers. What harm could it do to let him use it briefly? But now he was saying he couldn't find it. He'd had it at his apartment, then moved it somewhere, but now couldn't remember where. He was looking for it, but hadn't located it yet. Her explanation came out in a rushed stream of words, each sentence tripping over the last. She sounded genuinely anxious. I stayed calm on the phone, told her not to worry about it, said we'd figure it out, asked her to have the ex keep looking and let me know when he found it. She seemed relieved that I wasn't angry, thanked me for being understanding, said she felt terrible about the whole thing. We ended the call with me reassuring her that it would be fine. Then I sat in my apartment with complete certainty that something was very wrong with her story. Too many things didn't add up. Why would her ex call her after they'd broken up? How did he even know she had access to a laptop? Why would she agree to give him my property without asking me? And how do you lose a laptop you borrowed just days ago? None of it made sense. But I didn't want to confront her with my suspicions. Not yet. I wanted information first. I opened my current M4 MacBook Pro laptop and navigated to find my device. The old MacBook was still linked to my iCloud account. I'd set up tracking on all my devices, including my iPhone, years ago as a security measure and had never turned it off. The page loaded. There it was, a blue dot on a map, showing the laptop's current location. Still active. Still online. Pinging from an address across town in a neighborhood I didn't recognize. I took screenshots of a location, the timestamp, and the details. Then I called my friend, who had gone into law enforcement. I explained the situation to him vaguely at first. Asked what legal options existed if someone borrowed something and didn't return it. He asked clarifying questions. Was it expensive? Did it have value beyond monetary? Did I ask for it back? I explained it was a work laptop with sensitive client data, that I'd specifically requested its return and been told it was lost, that I had tracking showing where it currently was. My police friend was quiet for a moment, then said I could absolutely file a police report. Given that it was a work device with business data, and given that I'd requested its return and been told it wasn't available, this could potentially be treated as theft, especially with the tracking information. He told me what steps to take, how to present the information, and what documentation to bring. I thanked him and ended the call. Then I sat thinking about whether I really wanted to do this. Filing a police report felt extreme. But so did having my work laptop in someone else's possession without my consent. I decided to sleep on it. The next morning, my decision was clear. I went to the police station. I filed a formal report for a missing work device. provided the serial number, model number, and specifications, explained that the device contained sensitive client information and credentials, showed documentation of my request for its return and the response that it was lost. I provided the tracking information showing the laptop's current location. I didn't initially mention Brianna or her ex by name, just stated that I'd loaned the device to someone temporarily. That person had given it to a third party without my knowledge, and now I couldn't get it back. The officer taking the report was professional and thorough. He explained that given the work-related data on the device, this was indeed a serious matter. They'd follow up on the location and attempt to recover the property. I left the station feeling oddly calm. I'd handled it properly through official channels, protecting both my professional interests and my legal position. Now I just had to wait. For 2 days, I didn't bring up the laptop with Brianna. She texted me normal things, acting like everything was fine, like the laptop situation had resolved itself or wasn't important. I responded normally, played along, didn't mention the police report or the tracking or any of my suspicions, just observed her behavior. Meanwhile, the police were following up on the location. They traced the IP activity, verified the address, and prepared to make contact. On Thursday afternoon, Brianna's ex got an unexpected knock on his door. 2 police officers stood outside asking about a laptop. The ex was confused at first, then realized what they were talking about. They found the laptop in his apartment, on his desk, clearly being used, not lost at all. The officers explained the situation, that this was a work device reported as unreturned property containing sensitive business data. They asked him to explain how he came to possess it. The ex, panicking now, explained that his ex-girlfriend, Brianna, had given it to him. He needed it for a project. She'd said it was fine. He had no idea it wasn't hers to lend. The officers took the laptop and brought the ex in for questioning about possession of stolen property. From the police station, Brianna's ex immediately called Brianna. He was furious and scared, told her the police had shown up, taken the laptop, and brought him in for questioning. Asked why she'd given him someone else's work equipment. Said he might face charges because of her. Brianna's world apparently exploded in that moment. She started calling me immediately. Back-to-back calls that I let go to voicemail. Then the texts started flooding in. What did you do? You called the police. This is insane over a laptop. You didn't have to do this. How could you do this without talking to me first? Call me back right now. I read each message as it came in, but didn't respond. More calls. More increasingly frantic voicemails. The first few were angry and accusatory. How dare I involve the police? This was such an overreaction. I was trying to ruin her ex's life over a stupid laptop. The latter ones shifted to desperate pleading. Please call her back. We need to talk about this. She can explain everything. Please don't let her ex get in trouble. This is all a misunderstanding. I listened to the voicemails once, then deleted them. Didn't respond to any of it. Just waited. Through the police report and Brianna's ex's statement, I learned the real story. Brianna hadn't just recently reconnected with Tyler. She'd been spending significant time at his apartment for months. Brianna's ex hadn't actually asked to borrow the laptop. Brianna had voluntarily given it to him, telling him the laptop was hers and he could use it for his projects. She'd known it wasn't hers to give, but she'd convinced herself I wouldn't need it since I had other devices. She figured if she just told me it was lost or stolen eventually, I'd accept that and move on. Never expected I'd actually pursue getting it back, let alone involve the police. The laptop hadn't been lost at all. Brianna's ex had it the whole time, using it at his apartment, exactly where the tracking showed it to be. The whole story Brianna had told me was a lie from start to finish. I was processing all of this information, feeling something shift fundamentally in how I saw the past year and a half. It wasn't just about the laptop, though that was bad enough, giving away my property, lying about it, and assuming I'd just accept the loss. It was the layers beneath that. She'd been spending time at her ex-boyfriend's apartment regularly without ever mentioning it to me. She'd lied so easily, so smoothly, with a whole elaborate story about him calling out of nowhere, his laptop breaking, and him losing mine. She'd assumed I was someone who would just accept whatever she told me. Someone who wouldn't push back or verify, or protect his own interests. And beneath all of it was the clear implication that she'd been cheating. You don't spend that much time at an ex's apartment, giving him equipment, helping with his projects, unless something else is happening. The disrespect was staggering. Not just in the moment of giving away my laptop, but in every choice that led to that moment and every lie that followed. For days after I'd filed the police report, Brianna showed up at my apartment. I hadn't responded to any of her calls or texts. She'd apparently decided that showing up in person was the only way to force a conversation. I heard the knock and looked through the peephole. Saw her standing there, looking distressed and determined. I almost didn't open the door, but I decided to have this final conversation face to face. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. Just stood in the doorway. She immediately launched into a defensive explanation. She didn't think I'd make it such a big deal. It was just a laptop. I had other computers. Did I really have to involve the police? Brianna's ex might have a criminal record now, because of me. She was just trying to help him out. She thought I wouldn't even notice or care. The words poured out in a rush, her voice rising as she tried to justify everything. I waited until she ran out of steam. Then I spoke, keeping my voice quiet and level. I used her full name, which I rarely did. A signal that this was serious. No, Brianna. It wasn't just a laptop. It was mine. You just showed me what I'm worth to you. She started to interrupt, but I continued. I told her I knew she'd been spending time at her ex's place. Knew about her helping with his startup. Knew she didn't just lend the laptop. She gave it away, knowing it wasn't hers to give. Knew she'd lied about the entire situation, fabricated a story, and assumed I wouldn't verify anything. Her face went pale as she realized how much I knew. She tried to explain. Said it wasn't what it looked like. That her ex was just a friend now. They were working on a business project together. It didn't mean anything. I didn't argue with her or debate the details. I just said, we're done. She tried to backtrack. Said she'd do anything to make this right. That we could work through this. That she made mistakes, but still loved me. I shook my head slowly. Goodbye, Brianna. Then I closed the door. She stood outside for a few minutes. I could hear her through the door, saying my name, asking me to open up, to please talk about this. I didn't open the door again. Eventually, I heard her footsteps walking away. I got the laptop back from the police a few days later. Brianna's ex wasn't ultimately charged with anything. The situation was complicated enough that they decided not to pursue it once they understood the full context. The laptop had new files on it. The programs Tyler had installed. Documents from whatever projects he'd been working on. I wiped the entire thing clean. Factory reset. Reinstalled only what I needed. Updated all my security credentials and passwords. Made sure everything was properly secured. Then I just kept using it. It was a perfectly good laptop. No reason to get rid of it just because of the association. I blocked Brianna's number and all her social media. Clean break, no contact. Focused on my work, my friendships, my own life. Weeks passed quietly. I settled into a routine that didn't include her. Found it was easier than I'd expected. The relationship hadn't been adding as much to my life as I'd thought. Then she started texting from a different number. Apology messages at first. She was so sorry. She'd made terrible mistakes. She missed me. Could we please talk? Then reminiscing. Remember when we did this? Remember that trip we took? Remember how good we were together? Then more direct attempts. Asking if I'd be willing to meet for coffee. Just to talk. She'd changed. She understood now what she'd lost. I never responded to any of it. Not because I was angry or trying to punish her. I just genuinely had nothing to say. She'd shown me exactly who she was and what I meant to her. There was no coming back from that. Eventually, the messages stopped coming. Looking back now, I realized the laptop was never really the issue. It was what the situation revealed about respect, trust, and honesty. Brianna thought lying to me was easier than respecting me. She thought I'd accept whatever story she told me without question. She thought my property was hers to dispose of however she wanted. She thought her relationship with her ex was secret, even while she was supposed to be in a committed relationship with me. Every one of those assumptions showed a fundamental lack of respect. The laptop was just the thing that forced it all into the open. I trusted her too quickly, too completely. I'd ignored smaller signs, times she'd been vague about her plans, occasions when she'd been unavailable without good explanations, moments when her stories didn't quite add up. I'd given her the benefit of the doubt because I wanted to believe we had something real. But trust isn't something you should give blindly. It's something that should be earned and maintained through consistent honesty. I'm grateful in a way that this happened when it did. Before we moved in together. Before we got engaged. Before I was even deeper into a relationship with someone who saw me as convenient rather than valuable. Better to lose a laptop and a girlfriend than to lose years of my life to someone who didn't respect me. The calm, strategic approach served me well. I didn't let emotion cloud my judgment. I didn't make threats or ultimatums. I just took appropriate action to protect my property and interests. And when the full truth came out, I didn't waste time on angry confrontations or attempts to get closure through arguments. I just ended it cleanly and moved on. I still use that laptop. Every time I open it, I don't think about Brianna or X or any of the drama. I just think about the lesson I learned. It wasn't about the laptop. It was about the moment I realized I didn't lose a device. I lost someone who thought lying to me was easier than respecting me. And honestly, that was something worth losing.